We'll be discussing the strategic management accounting process. Just to recapture what we discussed in the last lecture, it has to be last lecture. I have prepared a small one slide there. What we talk about as a strategic management accounting, you know, focusing both orientation, internal and external. Of course, when you say external, outside of your business, there are, you know, the market is there, that is customers, and also competitors, other players are there. So you need to consider, you need to provide information, and you need to have about information on those two areas also, in addition to this internal case, internal orientation. So there, of course, we focus on cost reduction, cost management, cost control, performance evaluation, product management, etc. In the outside, we focus on strategic positioning. Strategic positioning means, so how we are going to get the competitive advantage, how you position in the market as a, you know, low cost or differentiation strategy or some other strategy. So how we are going to position in the market, in the playground, just to get your market share, just to get the competitive advantage. I think we highlighted that competitive advantage has to be sustainable, not just you know, for 1 year, 2 year. It has to, you know, you should be in a position to continue the competitive advantage. For that, of course, you need to just get information continuously, what is happening in the outside of your organization. So that was the main, you know, basic idea we just focus in last lecture. Then just to get the idea, I have just put a few data. Just look at, there are 4 products, ABC, total sales figures are given, cost of sales are given, operating profits are given, assets employed, that is the total assets given. You may assume these are in terms of billion, trillion, or whatever. Return on assets. Now, by looking at this, say these are 3 projects, which one is, you know, the best, or how do you evaluate these 3 alternatives? Any idea? I think with your experience, you might say that product C is the what do you call, out of these 3, you may decide that product C is good, or that is the most successful or the high performing business. But what I want to communicate to you is that this is based on internal data. So my idea is, we don't know, we can't make a, you know, perfect, complete conclusion, or the, you know, effective conclusion without understanding the players in the market. So who are the competitors for business A? Who are the competitors for business B? Who are the competitors for business C? And what is their, you know, characteristic? What is their capabilities? How they really, you know, interact in the market? How they you know, produce their product? What kind of, you know, competitive advantage do they have? So similarly, you need to think about the market potential also. So whether there is a, you know, the degree of market, relative market share, or the growth, product life cycle, but different matters. You need to different matters here in the sense external factors need to be considered. But traditionally, if you follow the traditional management accounting, by providing this information, you may conclude, if you are a traditional management accountant, you may provide this information, and in the board may conclude that okay, product C is good or the business C is the best. But what I'm trying to say is that as a new strategic oriented management accountant, these these 4, 5 or 5 line items not enough. You need to have a broader, I would say my word is helicopter view. You need a helicopter view about product A, product B, product C, or business A, business B, business C. So that is the idea. So that is the lesson. That is the core theme of this subject, strategic management accounting, looking at external orientation. I think by using this data, I just want to again emphasize the message or the meaning of strategic management accounting. So thereby, when you say strategic management accounting, there are new tools, new techniques, really, which techniques should be used to get more broader view about the business or the product or the project. Coming back to our today's session. So we are focusing today strategic management accounting process. Basically, when you look at the strategic management accounting process, the meaning of process. There is no end. Always there are different stages, and the last one is always linked to the first one. I no need of really reminding you the meaning of process. So thereby, when you look at the management accountant undertaking new tasks, I think same thing I am same thing I am just going to put into a different manner. Definition of appropriate business unit for strategic planning. So thereby, you need to like identifying when you do the financial accounting, it is, or the financial reporting, that it is essential for you to identify the reporting entity. Reporting entity is the core. Likewise, when you are going to do the strategic management accounting, or when you apply the strategic management accounting, what is important is to understand the business unit. That is called strategic business unit. We will discuss this part later on. Then you need really, once you identify your units, you can analyze, you can identify your competitors, and you can study the cost of your business, that is internal cost, and you can identify the competitors. Then you can look at the competitors cost structure. Also you can look at the value chain. Value chain here we'll discuss later on, not only your business value chain, but you have to think about the value chain in the perspective from the competitors as well. Then setting up and monitoring a competitor intelligence system. The meaning of intelligence. That is really collecting, getting information, crucial, sensitive information about the competitor or about a competitor. Then a provision of data related to market share, relative market share, future market trends. You need to identify what is your market share. How to calculate the market share. Market share is just dividing your sales by the industry sales. Your sales, your business sales, you divide by the total industry sales. Relative market share means you just explain your position in relation to the market share. So thereby, it's basically market share of your product divided by the major competitors market share. So it's a technical matter. You can find out how to calculate relative market share and the market share. Anyway, then the integration of this information into the strategic analysis process. So we need to integrate all these internal and external information into the strategic analysis process. So when you look at all these components, these tasks are collected into a clearly defined process which involves the 4 stages. We are just describing 4 stages under the strategic management accounting process. There are 4 steps, 4 stages. We look at what are those. First one, as I highlighted very correctly, strategic business unit identification. Second one is strategic cost analysis. Third one is strategic market analysis. Fourth one is strategic evaluation. Here you have to remember very clearly, strategic management accounting process has 4 elements, 4 segments for our discussion. Strategic business unit identification is the first one. You have to identify the first this. You can't do this in the second stage. First stage, you have to do the identification of SBU. Then you have to do the strategic cost analysis, then strategic market analysis, then strategy evaluation. Once you evaluate your strategy evaluation, you get the feedback, you get the performance. So thereby again you can redefine, change the strategic business unit, strategic cost analysis. It's a continuous process. It's not a 1 year, one time exercise per year. It's not the case. It depends on the nature of the business, nature of the market. So thereby I would say it's an ongoing, continuous process when you look at the strategic management accounting process. So clearly, again, just to remind you, there are 4 stages: strategic business unit identification, strategic cost analysis, strategic market analysis, and strategy evaluation. Then we will discuss a little bit about strategic business unit. I think if you have studied the strategic management, you might have heard of these concepts. So thereby I'm not going to discuss this strategic business unit in detail. So the reasons for identifying strategic business unit, the first one is different sources of competitive advantage. We need to identify different sources of competitive advantage for our business. Second, require strategies tailor-made to fit their particular circumstances. So we need to select appropriate strategies for our manageable small business unit. Then we can easily identify our direct competitors. Now, for example, when you look at Haley's Group, when you talk about the Haley's Group, you can't talk about the competitors, because within the Haley's Group there are different businesses like Aiken Spence. Likewise, when you take different collection of businesses, the businesses as a whole, very difficult to identify the competitors. So when you divide those the group of companies, group of businesses into small strategic business unit, you can identify easily the competitors. Then optimize resource allocation among its different businesses. You know, whatever the business, when you talk about funds, resources are limited. You know the economics. So thereby even a big company, multinational company, even World Bank, they have limited resources when we compare the needs or the purposes or the requirements. So they have limited resources always, thereby. So we need to allocate resources in optimum way just to get the maximum benefit. So thereby identification of business strategic business unit facilitate for us to, you know, allocate resources for its different businesses according to the requirements. But even I explain the reasons for identifying strategic business unit. Further, I just want to communicate you that when you say strategic business unit, it's much more autonomous, much more empowered, independent center, independent unit. I think you can remember we discussed in management accounting different responsibility centers. So strategic business unit may be a kind of responsibility center. Anyway, so even though we explain it as it is, but defining SBU, that is strategic business units, is a complex task. Various methods are available to assist the strategic management accountant in this task. So to define what the strategic business units, there are different methods, but in this presentation, in this slides, I will be discussing two methods with you. The first method to identify SBU is Arthur D. Little. He has really focused on four variables. He talked about the price, competitors, customer groups, shared experience. He raised the question, does a change in pricing policy in one division affect the sales of another? Do different divisions face common competitors? Do different divisions serve common customer groups? Do different divisions have or share similar R&D, manufacturing or marketing functions? If you change, if your division change the pricing, if this change will affect others, then all these affected businesses can be considered as one SBU. Likewise, if it depends, when you according to this Little, the particular researcher is arguing that the answering for these four questions will facilitate for us to decide SBU. For example, if you are sharing a common set of customers, common R&D, common manufacturing process, common marketing, of course that you may produce different products. But if you are supplying, if you are sharing your R&D, and if your customer base is almost same, so thereby you can consider as it as SBU. But you have to remember, so thereby within your SBU, you may have 3-4 products, maybe one product, it depends. Then the method to identify SBUs, the second one, Abel 1980, he just really focused on conventional two-dimensional concept of business unit definition in terms of product and markets. You know the product, you know the market. Product is anything that satisfies the customer needs, and you know the markets. As I told you earlier, in markets there are customers. So based on these two concepts, he is trying to define what the SBU is. First one is he's focusing customer group. Customer group refers to the category of customers, the needs which are satisfied by an SBU's product or service. Maybe high income people, maybe professional. So you have to frequent travelers. You have to define the customer group. Then the customer function refers to the customer needs which are satisfied by the SBU product services. The function they perform for the customer. What function? For example, it may be transportation. It may be increasing, office productivity. Depends on. Now, when you take an aircraft, so you might say transportation. Then the substitute technology. You may provide the transport by using, aircraft, but what kind of technology you use substitutes? In certain cases, you might say, okay, budget airline. When you say budget airlines, basically you are not providing any facilities. But when you say economic business class, you know that you are giving much more supports. Maybe, TV, Wi-Fi connections, full facilities. So thereby, based on those three, areas, Abel is trying to define SBU. Now, with regard to the SBU, you know that when you take General Motors, there may be 49, 50, 51, 52 SBUs. By producing different items, different by approaching different market segments, market SBUs. When you look at the LG, even if you look at the Haley's or Aitken Spence, you may identify different SBUs. But here the idea is when you define the SBU, it has to be not too broader, not too narrow, like working capital management, not high, not low. It has to be optimum, manageable thing. Otherwise, it's very difficult to implement other three stages of strategic management accounting process. Then the task of strategic management accountant, the main task of the strategic management accountant will be to collect data from marketing, production, and other functions, including accounting and finance at a corporate level, determine the firm's SBU. For example, this information will relate to the target customer group, technology employed by a divisional unit, and competitors and divisional pricing policy. So thereby, the management accountant should help to identify the SBU, strategic business units, by collecting data. Not so he or she has to collect marketing information, production information, other functions, including accounting and finance data. For example, I would say the target customer group information, the technology you are using to deliver the product, the performance of the functions of the product, the competitors' information, divisional pricing policies. So you have to consider as management accounting. For example, you may combine these two methods. You may use the price, competitors, customer groups, shared experience, and also you may use these two-dimensional, traditional, conventional classification also. So there is no particular recommended method. It depends on the context. It depends on the business you are focusing. So thereby, there is even though different authors produce different method, there is a possibility of combining when you implement identification of SBUs in practical scenario, practical context. Then coming next part of the task of the strategic management accountant. Management account already used terms such as, I think you can remember earlier I highlighted this little responsibility accounting centers. You know the meaning of responsibility accounting center. For example, you can remember you may have the cost center, you may have the profit center, you may have the investment center. You know the meaning of investment center. Investment center is where the respective CEO, manager is responsible for both profit and the investment. When you say revenue, the particular CEO is responsible only for revenue. When you say profit center, the particular CEO, the branch head manager, is responsible for the revenue and the cost. But what I would say, when you say strategic management accounting, it has to be strategic investment centers. The term is strategic. The meaning is that it's an investment center, that is true. But as accountant, you tend to collect data not only internal of this business, you are focusing always outside also. Outside, or I would say external orientation is there when you say strategic investment center. So I recommend you, if you could understand the meaning concept of SBU, advantages and the characteristics, and of course better to focus on the strategic management course, SBU, because when you say SBU, it's really decentralization. You are giving power to the board, is giving power to the particular CEO. CEO is responsible for all the performance of the particular business unit. CEO is taking all investment decisions, all handling competitor matters. All these are responsible for the particular. All these matters are responsible for the particular CEO. That is called SBU. SBU is much more autonomous, empowered collection of businesses. Then I think you can remember our the what do you call the process. The first one was the strategic business identification. Second one is strategic cost analysis. When you take strategic cost analysis, I just got a chart for you just to communicate the matter. Strategic cost analysis has, of course, I would say based on this diagram, there are some people call this is strategic cost management, SCM. Same thing, huh? Strategic cost management, strategic cost analysis. It has three elements: strategic positioning analysis, cost driver analysis. You know the cost driver. Cost driver means the cost reasons for incurring a different type of cost. Then the value chain analysis. Michael Porter's story. Again, if you study the strategic management accounting, you may remember the value chain analysis. Strategic positioning analysis and cost driver analysis, value chain analysis will be discussed next two slides. Strategic cost analysis, first of all, what you have to do is, what is your strategic cost position? What is the cost structure of your organization? You may look at what are your variable and what are your fixed cost. That is, again, you have to remember a little bit conventional, traditional. But anyway, you have to identify the strategic cost position of your business, and also you have to understand, you have to get information, strategic cost position of your competitors. Not here all the competitors, but better to have major 2 or 3 competitors, at least the major one. So for that you have to do the calculate the relative market share, of course. Strategic cost position, strategic cost position of competitors. First one is strategic cost position of your organization, your business, USBU. Now always you have to remember, you do the strategic cost analysis for the strategic business unit, not for the entire group. You do the strategic cost analysis for the SBU. Now assessing the strategic cost position of your business, SBU is number one. Then the number 2 is assessing the strategic cost position of competitors. Then, of course, strategic cost analysis use the value chain to highlight the behavior of the SBU cost by identifying a firm strategically relevant activities. So there are 3 key words in this sentence. One is value chain. Other one is behavior. You know the meaning of behavior of cost. You may talk about the behavior of variable, behavior of fixed cost. Likewise, you may talk about different pattern of behavior in terms of cost. But you have to remember, we discuss the behavior of cost not in terms of isolate, but in terms of value chain analysis. And I will come back to the value chain also in the next slide. Then the strategically relevant activities. So always firms should perform relevant activities, value adding activities. So thereby we are just analyzing the value chain so as to find out the behavior of the cost and also whether those activities are relevant or not. The term value chain and the cost driver are described below in relation to assessing the strategic cost position of an SBU. This is the value chain. Of course, you can remember the Michael Porter, this diagram. You will know that these there are 9 activities, of course, if you can remember. There are 5 what we call primary activities, and there are 4 supporting activities. You have to remember, these 5 activities always created the wealth of the organization, value of the organization. So if you take the inbound, operation, outbound, marketing, and service, these 3 are contributed to the value, wealth of the business. And these supporting activities has 2 purposes, 2 functions. One is, hello, any question? Those 4 activities really contribute to support these activities, plus those 4 activities contribute to value, wealth. So thereby supporting activities has 2 functions. It contributes to create value as well as supporting the primary activities. Now you see that whatever the costs incurred in your organization, can be categorized under 9 headings. Now, our traditional way of classifying cost is, direct cost, direct material, production overheads, non-manufacturing. Can you remember our traditional way of classifying? But if you are a management accountant, you have to have a management accounting information system to capture your information based on the value chain analysis. So 9 segments. But again, you have to remember, even though there are 9 segments here, you may really classify these 9 into subcategories. You may end up with 100 activities. So according to this, Michael Porter, he has summarized all the activities into 9 activities. And what I'm trying to say is that when you go to the operation, when you go to the practice, real life setup, you may really classify all these 9 activities into sub-segments. For example, when you take operation, you can say product designing. You can do the product designing cost. You can identify the machine cost. You can identify the packaging cost. I'm just taking a simple example. So likewise, each activity you can divide into sub-segments. More the merrier. More the merrier means if you have more activities, you can do a very good analysis. If you have less activities, it is very difficult for you to understand non-value adding activities. When you include more and more segments, sub-segments, what happens is you can easily identify non-relevant activities. Non-relevant activities means non-value adding activities. That's about Michael Porter's value chain. I'm not going to describe what it is in detail, because idea is that you may learn the Michael Porter value chain in some other subject, but what I am trying to say you is that as management accountant, you should be in a position to collect information, cost data, uh, uh, according to this particular categorization when you are assessing the cost position of your business. And also you can compare, you can collect information relating to cost in evaluating competitors' cost position based on the Michael Porter's value chain. Then you can compare. Then you know which activities are, we are behind, we are less efficient, which activities are we are more efficient. Likewise, you can do a very good analysis. Okay. Then the cost analysis further, I would say again, I think I'm just describing these two now. I have explained the strategic cost position and the strategic cost position of the competitors. Now we are talking about value chain and the behavior and strategical relevant or irrelevant story. So cost analysis need disaggregations. Disaggregation should reflect 3 principles. What I told you, I think you can remember I told you that you need to really, analyze these 9 activities into further. I told 100 sub variables. So even though there are 9 activities, it's better to analyze it further and further. So when you are analyzing this further and further, there are 3 principles in your mind. There are 3 principles. The first one is the size and growth of the cost represented by the activity. Size and the growth. Size and the growth. The growth is always, you will compare growth with this year, last year with this year. Otherwise, you can't calculate the growth. The size here means the value, of course. So thereby, you need to think about, you can't just analyze first year, 1 year data. You at least you should have 3-4 years data. You have to put the 3-4 years data into this value chain analysis. Year number 1, year number 2, year number 3. Then you can put 9 activities and subsegments. Those. Then, of course, please focus on size and growth when you remember. The second point is the cost behavior of the activity. Better to identify what are variables, what are fixed, what are semi-variable, what are step fixed costs. Like, I think you can remember we study in management accounting different type of cost, variable, fixed. Better to identify the cost of the activities in relation to cost behavior. The other principle is competitive differences in performing the activity. So you need to compare your cost based on the value chain and the competitors' cost based on the value chain, and you can identify the differences and you can discuss this. Why such differences? So then only the new ideas are coming, new thinking, innovative ideas is coming to reduce or eliminate or to replace IT components, whatever. So this analysis, I think when you do the disaggregations, I think you can remember, you can understand what it is. Further, when you are further analyze your cost based on the, what do you call this, value chain analysis, your mind has to be focused on size and growth, cost behavior, and competitive differences. Then, of course, 10 factors driving cost. I have given 10 factors. This particular from a particular research paper I have taken, but there are 10 factors. Economies and diseconomies scale. You know the meaning. Scale can affect either favorably or adverse. When you produce more and more, you know, in certain cases, your cost per unit will get less. When you produce more activities, more and more activities, your cost will be reduced as per as you learn in the economics. You can remember the economies of scale, right? Then the learning and spillover. In certain costs, when you learn more and more, the cost will be very low. The learning curve experience, accumulated experience, your experience, your know-how will help you to, you know, reduce the cost. The pattern of capacity utilization, another one. So certain cases, up to certain level of capacity, costs remain, you know, fixed. So underutilization where fixed costs are high. So when such cost structure now is there, if your cost categorization, suppose cost analysis, say 60%, 70% of cost is coming under this category, then you know your fixed cost is very high. Your fixed cost is very high. So thereby you have to have appropriate pricing strategies. Peak hours, non-peak hours. Can you remember the hotel and airlines design their, you know, pricing strategies based on different, you know, different timing. They change their pricing strategies. Likewise, linkage with value activities, supplier channels can lower the cost linked activities. When you link certain activities, you can reduce the cost. I'll take one practical example. So where I consult a particular company, it has two companies. One particular company is really just providing finance for the brand new vehicles. Other one is providing, other companies providing finance facilities, loans for second hand. Two companies. Earlier it had their own separate people, accounting, you know, recovery, then you know, doing granting facilities. Likewise, they had different divisions in these two companies. What I did was we link all these activities. We link all those activities into one. So thereby, even though there are two companies, now people do really both companies work. For example, file handling department will do brand new files and the second hand file. But there are two systems, two software, but in one machine they do. So thereby it's better to link, when you link the activities, you can reduce the number of employees, you can save the space, you can save the rent cost, you can save certain cases other overheads. Likewise, in certain cases, linkages will help you to, reduce the cost. So thereby you have to, linkages can be considered as another cost drive. Then the interrelationship, sharing resources. Then the integration, vertical integration may reduce cost of activities and lead to economies of joint operation. So you can do the joint operation. You may do the vertical integration. Then the timing, advantages may be gained adopting first move and follower strategy. In certain cases, if you are a first mover, you will get the advantages. In certain cases, if you are the follower, also you will get the certain, it depends on. So we need to understand whether we are a first mover or the follower, or we will get what kind of advantages or cost saving. Then discretionary policies, explicit and implicit policies, choices independent of the drivers can affect cost. Implicit and the explicit policy choices indirectly affect your cost. Then institutional factors, of course, government and union regulation have an effect on cost. Institutional factors, maybe government may fix certain salary levels. You have to pay that amount of salary, so thereby that is the cost driver. Institutional factor is the cost driver. For example, if you take EPF and ETF, employee related cost is an institutional factor. There is a rule. There is a trade union or the labor security requirement. Then the location also, certain cases, location may have a matter of cost. So for example, in certain countries, labor cost is low. For example, Bangladesh, with regard to this labor cost, garment factories, so their labor cost is lower than our cost. So thereby, location also is a cost driver. What I want to communicate to you is that when you analyze the cost, better you need to consider, better you need to think about, better need to collect data in terms of cost drivers. Then the quantifying effect of those cost drivers upon the quality on SBU output can be achieved using the following 4 stages process. In other words, when you quantify the effect of these cost drivers, impact of these cost drivers, you need to consider these really, what do you call these following 4 stages also. What are prevention? Are there, when you analyze the cost, when you look at the cost drivers, so what is the degree of prevention cost? Prevention means quantifying the cost, preventing poor quality, preventing quality. Then the appraisal, the quantify the cost employed in system to monitor quality level, monitoring cost. So inside the process, why you monitor? You need to monitor more when you are not ensuring the quality of your inputs. If you purchase low quality raw material, you have to monitor more inside your process. So likewise, you need to think about, analyze the degree of prevention cost, appraisal cost, then the internal failure. Internal failure may be just because of poor training, unskilled labor, outdated technology. Just because of that, you may get the internal failure. So quantify the cost of remedying mistakes as a result of bad quality before goods pass from an SBU to the buyer. So you have to find out internal failure cost. Then the external failure cost. Quantifying the cost, rectifying mistakes after goods have been passed on to the customer. That means really external failure means once the product is delivered to the customer, are there any complaints? So are there any costs? Maybe replacing cost, maybe just repairing cost, maybe after sales service cost, etc. External failure cost. So I think if you want to get the more competitive advantage, better to reduce these type of costs, not So you can compare your prevention cost with the competitor. You can compare your appraisal cost with the competitor. You can compare your internal failure cost with the competitor. You can compare your external failure cost with the competitor. Okay. I hope that you all are safe and you can hear me. Identifying value activities, cost accumulation at the responsibility center level, unlike represent cost value activities. Product cost, traditional cost system do not associate non-manufacturing cost with products. Value chain linkage account system treat different activities in isolation are unlikely to collect information in the coordinated. Then cost driver identification, exact costing system do not identify quantity bias people. Now here this slide, of course, focus on to communicate that strategic. It's a complex process. It's not, as I told you, it's not really identifying direct material cost, direct labor cost. It's not something. It's not like that's much more simple. This what we are when you are analyzing the cost based on value chain, based on the four stages which I mentioned, prevention, etc. Those costs. So it's not easy. It's a complex process. You need to have a very good system. You need to have very capable people, professional people. Otherwise, they can't understand this. Traditional way of thinking will not help you to do the strategic cost analysis. That's what this slide says. Then determine relative competitor cost position. When you look at the relative competitor cost position, competitor intelligence system is required. When you say competitor intelligence system, now here what I'm now telling you, you know that we need to analyze the cost position of your business and also cost position of our competitors. Now here we are talking about especially the matters which has to be considered in evaluating, in analyzing the competitors' cost position. So competitor intelligence system is the key here. Competitors' future goals, competitors' assumptions, and competitors' current strategy. Those three are important. Competitors' future goals. What would be the future reaction of the competitor? What kind of targets particular competitors are having? You know, they are just going to, you know, have a very rapid growth, or just they are being silent and just doing the business as it is. Are they going to do a radical change in the business process, or just they are following? Do they have more information about market customers, etc.? Then what would be their assumptions about the future with regard to the uncertainty, with regard to the business potential, with regard to the product, etc. So competitors' assumptions about the business, and also what are their current strategies. Just they follow the low cost pricing strategy, or they are just, you know, differentiation strategy, or they are just, you know, pricing the product by focusing short-term strategy or long-term strategy, or some other. You need to understand the competitors' current strategy. You may discuss the strategies from different perspectives. Maybe they are just having a very good, you know, digitalized business strategy. So that may be a very good threat for you. Then the competitors' capability. What capabilities they have? Capabilities mean their strength and weaknesses, especially. What kind of strength they have? What kind of weaknesses they have? Then potential sources of competitors' intelligence data. Of course, the sources of data, I have listed many items, but you may list more than this if you think further and further. Customers, one source of competitors' intelligent data. You may talk about the customers. Then the sales force, your sales rep may bring very good information about the competitors. Common suppliers, really providing material or whatever to the total industry. That's called common suppliers. say example, supply A and supply A produce to all the players in the market. So he or she becomes a common supplier. Then personal hired from, you may hire, you know, consultant, professional people. They might really talk about the competitors because they might have worked for them also. Then the competitors itself, industry journals, any publication, advertising agencies, trade exhibitions. Of course, very good opportunity for you to collect information about, you know, competitors, trade exhibitions, security analysis, competitors product, promotional literature, the material, management periodicals, newspaper articles, annual reports, government reports, and scanners. Scanners means maybe certain cases a research report coming under. Scanners means you may study the particular organization and you are publishing maybe a research report, maybe a case study report, maybe some, you know, reports which is issued by a particular legal authority or monitoring board. So those are coming under scanners. Scanners means just, you know, secondary report issued by some for a specific purpose. So potential sources of competitor intelligence data is that. Then strategic market analysis, the third one, you know, strategic market analysis, we discussed the identification of SBU. Second one, strategic cost analysis. Third one is strategic market analysis. Of course, I just want to highlight in your syllabus, what I want to highlight, this matter, the competitor analysis will be discussed in detail. I think there are 2 or 3 sessions on this, which will be taken by Chaturika Miss under this competitor. Then the strategic market analysis, the stage of the product life cycle is important. You know, the stage product life cycle, whether it's introduction, growth, you know, decline, and maturity. So that is there. Then the actual market, of course, you will have the actual. Okay. Actual market share, then the market share related to the major competitor, then the strategic market analysis. Begs the question: how do we define our market? An economic market and a strategic market. Yes. Now, when you look at this strategic market analysis, I think product life cycle is important, as I told you, and also actual market share is important. Depending on the product life cycle stage, you may have different information, actual market share, and also relative market share. Relative market, you know how to calculate the actual market share is just divide your sales by the industry sales. Relative market share is basically your market share divided by the major competitor. But relative market share can be calculated in different ways. There are different ways of calculating, but you have to understand what it is, how it has been calculated. Strategic market analysis begs the question of how do we define our market? That is important. What is our market? How do we define our market? So when you define your market, again, like I think you can remember, when you define the SBU, it should not be too narrow. It should not too broader. Likewise, when you define your market, also it has to be, you know, manageable, not larger, not smaller. There are 2 types of market: economic market and the strategic market. When you say economic market, another name for economic market is market segment. You know, market segment is related to set of consumer with homogeneous taste, similar requirements, similar needs, facing similar condition, paying a uniform price of homogeneous product. Like, you know, the daily commodities, So you can think about the market segment. Strategic market is the smallest area of the market or markets in which it is viable to compete. So strategic is much more, I would say, maybe smaller than economic market, but it's very easy for you to identify the competitors when you define the market as a strategic oriented. Then coming back to the strategy evaluation is the last one, I think, in our case, last step. Strategy evaluation involves the strategic management accountant combining information collected during the strategic cost analysis and the strategic market analysis stages to facilitate the selection of optimum strategies. Now you will realize strategy evaluation means you are just evaluating all the information you collected so as to select the optimum strategy, the best strategy. The strategy may be, as I told you, depending on the cost leadership or the differentiation, or you may be certain strategies, you may have hold strategy, you are just keeping it, or you may think about selling strategy, disposing strategy, certain segment, certain product, certain part of your business operation, you may dispose, you may sell. So thereby, what I want to communicate to you is that you may look at the strategy from different perspective. But I'm not going to discuss the different type of strategies in our session. We are just looking at the accounting perspective for the strategic management, our focus. Then strategy evaluation involves the strategic management, as I told you. Here you just evaluate the information based on given data or the collected information to identify what action is suitable to get the competitive advantage. So here the idea is to, when you select the optimum strategies, what happens here is your business value will increase, share price will increase. So what I want to communicate, this subject in a way related to the shareholder value analysis also, business valuation. So therefore, what happened is, in our syllabus, there are 2 or 3 sessions with regard to the competitive analysis. There are 2 or 3 sessions with regard to the market analysis. There are 2 sessions for business valuations. But in addition to that, we talk about the management control. We talk about the sustainable management accounting practices, and also we will talk about uncertainty about the business, the managing risk aspect also a little bit, just to give the complete picture for our accounting, strategic management accounting subject. So finally, what I want to communicate to you is that strategic management accounting, there is a link with shareholder value. Strategic management accounting can also help link strategic with shareholder value analysis, which seeks to maximize the return to shareholder. You know the meaning of shareholder value. That is really the share price. So we are trying to calculate we are trying to maximize the wealth of the shareholder. So to maximize, to satisfy our shareholders, the management accountant really should play a strategic role. He or she cannot be isolated from the strategic management process. He or she has to be in the strategic management process. The meaning is that when you say strategic management accounting or the strategy, you can't just think about internal. You have to go outside. You have to collect information. So thereby, for such task, I think management accountant, we as accountant should ready, and we should develop right attitudes, skills, and capabilities. Networks, relationship, data collection method. Of course, qualitative data collection methods important in strategic management accounting, not just only the quantitative data. Qualitative data matters. always. So thereby, this subject is little bit broader. When you say strategic management accounting, it looks for both quantitative and qualitative data, both internal and external data, both competitor and customer based data. So I think with that, we will wind up. That is the final part of our session, strategic management accounting process. I think you, I hope that you all got the news. Your exam is on 13th. You will get 1 week study leave, and all the students will get hostel according to the faculty board decision. But some, of course, can come, I think, from home if it's convenient for them. Um, so next session, of course, Friday will take by Chaturika Miss. I think she will do the not Chaturika. I'm sorry, Sanjeevani Miss. She will talk about management control just to get a complete picture about internal matters of an organization. With that, I hope this session is over. I did it. I discussed the strategic management accounting process. There are 4 stages. So what we'll do is during our next sessions, we will elaborate these elements in detail. If you have any question, you can just raise. Any question? If you don't have any questions, what I will do is I will end I will leave. I will end the meeting. I think no question. Yes. Thank you very much for joining.